They thought they were ending my story that morning, closing a door and tossing the key somewhere I'd never find it again. But what they didn't understand was this. When you grow up learning how to survive being overlooked, being underestimated, being quietly pushed aside, you don't break the way they expect you to. Sometimes you bend, sometimes you go quiet, but you don't disappear. And yeah, I didn't know it then, but that day they expelled me was the day everything really started. I grew up on a farm outside Ridgeway, the kind of place where the soil gets into your hands and never really leaves, where mornings start before the sun, and you learn early that nothing is given to you. Not respect, not security, not second chances. My dad used to say excellence wasn't optional. It was how we stayed standing, how we kept what little ground we had. I believed him. I still do. That's why I worked the way I did. Straight A's debate team, captain, perfect attendance, never late, never sloppy, never loud. I knew how easy it was for people to decide who you were without ever asking. You know what I mean? The day it happened was supposed to be a good day. Big debate tournament, college recruiters in the audience, the kind of moment you circle on the calendar for years without saying it out loud. I stood on the porch that morning holding my debate notes like they were armor, watching the sun climb over fields my grandfather had worked before me. And my dad just looked at me and said, "Remember who you are." He always said that when he knew the world was about to test you. Walking into Ridgeway High felt the same as it always did. The looks, the pauses in conversation, the way some teachers smiled just a little tighter when they saw me. I was used to it. What I wasn't used to was Principal Crane stopping me outside his office, blocking the hallway like he owned the air itself. He told me he'd heard about the debate, said it was a big opportunity, then leaned in and quietly reminded me that no matter how well I did, some doors weren't meant for people like me. He said it calm, polite even, like he was offering advice. I nodded, walked away, heart pounding, telling myself, not today, don't let him get in your head. The debate itself felt like flying. My opponent was his nephew Tyler, all confidence and borrowed authority, whispering little insults like they were jokes we were both supposed to laugh at. When it was my turn, I didn't yell or grandstand. I just talked. About access, about systems, about how standardized tests pretend to be neutral while quietly rewarding people who already have everything. I watched the room shift, felt the energy change, saw judges exchange looks. When they announced I'd won, it wasn't close. Unanimous. My dad's voice cut through the applause, loud and proud, and for a second I let myself believe this was it. This was the turning point. That belief didn't even last 12 hours. That night, while I was home replaying the debate in my head, Tyler used his uncle's keys to get into the school. He stole an exam answer sheet and slid it into my locker like a trap. Clean, simple, effective. The next morning before first period even started, I was called to the office. The answer sheet was already on the desk when I walked in. Principal Crane asked me to explain myself with that same polite tone like he already knew how the story ended. I told him the truth. I said I'd never seen it before. I said someone planted it. He smiled, shook his head, and told me Ridgeway had a zero-tolerance policy. Effective immediately, I was expelled. Just like that. No investigation, no hearing, no school board. I asked for all of it. He waved me off like I was wasting his time. By lunch, the whole school knew. I cleaned out my locker with a security guard standing too close, Tyler and his friends watching from down the hall, trying not to grin too hard. Yeah, that happened. My debate coach found me sitting outside with my backpack and said she'd fight it, but I could hear the doubt in her voice, not about me, about the system. When my dad heard, he drove straight to the school. I'd never seen him that angry, but even then he kept his voice steady. Crane didn't. He told my father maybe I should focus on farming, that it was all I'd ever be good for anyway. That night a man in a nice suit showed up at our farm with an offer to buy our land, generous on paper, urgent in tone. My dad said no, without hesitating. A few hours later, fire tore through our back field. Someone had said it, no question. The message was clear. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about cheating. It wasn't about school. It was about pressure, about control, about making us small enough to move out of the way. What followed felt unreal, like living inside a movie you didn't audition for. My coach pulled security footage showing Tyler sneaking into the school after hours. My best friend Luke and I broke into the administration office one night and found years of altered records, grades quietly changed. Students pushed out, always the same kind of families. Always the same result. Meanwhile, we got eviction notices, tax warnings that weren't real threats, spray painted on the barn. The local cops shrugged it off, said it was probably kids messing around. You ever notice how some things are always probably nothing when they happen to certain people? Then the helicopter landed. It came down right on the football field, blades chopping the air, pulling half the town out of their houses. A man stepped out, older, confident, dressed like he belonged anywhere he stood. He didn't look at Principal Crane, didn't acknowledge him at all. His eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on me. He said my name like he already knew me. Inside a black limousine, he showed me a photo of my grandfather in uniform standing beside him decades ago. He told me my grandfather had saved his life overseas, pulled him out of a burning vehicle, said he'd never forgotten. He offered me anything, any college, any future. I surprised myself by saying no. I told him I didn't want out. I wanted the truth. He smiled like he'd been waiting for that answer. Things moved fast after that. Evidence stacked up. A national journalist agreed to cover it. We planned a live town hall, streamed online documents, ready to drop all at once so they couldn't bury it quietly. Standing on that stage, lights, hot crowd restless, I felt my hands shake for the first time since this started. I told my story anyway, about the debate, the frame job, the fire, the land offers. Halfway through, a masked man ran up and shoved a flash drive into my hand, yelling for us to play it. The video showed everything. Crane, his brother, developers, school board members, talking openly about using schools to pressure families off their land, about keeping the town the right kind of place. When the mask came off, it was Tyler, bruised, shaking, apologizing into a microphone saying he'd helped and he was wrong. By the end of the night, people were being arrested. Charges were filed. Some ran, some fought, some went quiet. Principal Crane went to prison. Others followed. Not all of them. Some never do. Here's the part nobody tells you. Winning doesn't feel clean. It feels like standing in the wreckage, realizing how close you came to losing everything. I didn't go back to Ridgeway High. I didn't need to. I stayed. We turned our land into something that protected others, instead of something that could be stolen. The fight worked, but it also showed me how many fights never get this far, how many people never get heard. So yeah, that's my story. And I'll ask you the same thing I ask myself sometimes. If someone had offered you an easy exit, everything you ever wanted, would you have taken it and walked away? Or would you have stayed and burned the lie down even knowing the cost? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue with me, tell me I'm wrong, or tell your own story because I promise you someone else needs to hear it.